Welcome back, one and all, to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. Today's a Tuesday show. You never know who you're gonna get, but you got a good one today. Trae is back. Trae Crowder, how's it going?
Oh, good. Glad to be here. What, is Tuesday the normal trash day around here or something? Is that what
no, we take out trash on Fridays.
Tuesdays go.
No, Thursdays. Thursdays, I think most people would agree is the trash day because it's just me. I don't have a guest or anything. It's really nothing to look forward to on those days. But Tuesdays is when we don't have a regularly scheduled weekly guest that's always the same. So very glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
I do want to say, there's so much that we have to do every day to just keep up with the news and everything. It's very hard to like plan ahead and work on something that's only going to bear fruit like months later. And I'm realizing right now that I wish I had put in the work over the past few months of normalizing me just eating live on the show, because I didn't have time to eat the Pop-Tarts that I brought to the desk, and now they're right there, and I'm not gonna be able to eat them until the break. And so that's the pain I'm gonna have in my heart. And I just don't think it would be right if during this next block I started eating a Pop-Tart live on air, but.
I don't want to divert us too much, although you did start this, but I just have to know, like, you have a young child. Is that why it's Pop-Tarts, or have you remained a Pop-Tart devotee throughout your entire adulthood? Are you a fully grown man who would have Pop-Tarts whether or not you had a young child at home?
It has nothing to do with my daughter. Okay. Nothing at all. And
I respect that. I like that.
Do you ever think, you're an inquisitive person, do you ever fantasize about having like a machine that you could ask any question and get an accurate answer no matter what the question is?
Sure, yeah.
Like, I wonder what percentile I'm in for Pop-Tart consumption.
Oh, wow.
I'm kind of scared to find out, but like if I were to find out that I was in like the 99th percentile or whatever, I would not be that shocked because I've eaten a lot of Pop-Tarts in my life. Are you not a fan?
I mean, of course, I used to be, and then I turned 15 or whatever. But no, I'm kidding. Pop-Tarts are all right. No, they're fine. They're okay. It's just, I'm not going to go out of my way. But again, I do like an Uncrustable now and then.
Okay. That's like
those are convenient.
That's a cousin of a Pop-Tart kind of. Anyway, well, it's just gonna be sitting there with its brown sugar cinnamony goodness, and I'm not gonna be able to eat it anytime soon. So I guess I will have to sustain myself on the news. And we have some fun stuff to talk about today, including the next step in the fight between Donald Trump and Marjorie Greene. I think it's totally on now. I think that we're past the dilly-dallying, like I think we're into full-on feud. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll have that for you. We're gonna talk a lot about affordability of food, both for Thanksgiving and also McDonald's is in the spotlight. Donald Trump gave a speech to franchisees of McDonald's and told a bunch of lies. We'll be talking about that. I do wanna make sure that you know about the various wars we're seemingly about to start. So we'll be touching base with that. And Kash Patel continuing to get in trouble for the weird way he's manipulating the resources available to him with his position in the administration to benefit his girlfriend, who is definitely his girlfriend because she genuinely loves him and not for any other ulterior motives. So we're gonna be talking about that too. And that's all in the first hour. Coming up in the aftermath, has Donald Trump lost MAGA? It's sort of the big theme of the week. We're gonna be taking stock of that. And Elon Musk was attacked by Billie Eilish. So it's his opportunity to clap back. And he's obviously a genius and a very funny and charismatic guy. So we're gonna give you his response later on. But before all that, hit the like button, share the stream, send us your super chats, blah, blah, blah. Trae, are you ready to do this thing?
Born ready, buddy, let's do it.
Born ready.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy. That's a quote
I like it.
from
Okay.
Independence Day. Yep.
It is.
That's
Good
right.
movie. Watched it recently. Okay, let's jump into our first story. Marjorie Greene has almost entirely now taken off the proverbial gloves in her fight with Trump. Maybe like it's dangling on a finger and she could possibly backtrack, but she's throwing out some big attacks finally. She has been super careful during this entire MAGA civil war to not attack Donald Trump specifically, but he has been, I think, a bit rude to her in her defense recently. And so she's finally responding, and here it is.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. You are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files, but the real fight will happen after that.
And I agree with her there, by the way. Important to get this vote, important to get the file, assuming that the vote actually leads to the files coming out. And there's a lot of reason to think that it won't. But she's totally right that the fight doesn't end there. But let's set that aside. She just called him a traitor. I mean, again, she didn't like say Donald Trump is a traitor, but she said he called me a traitor. No, you know what's a traitor? All the stuff I don't like about him. So and he definitely is going to interpret that as she said that he's a traitor. And look, she has fought for him for like 5 or 6 years. She has stood by him through all of it. We could do a list hundreds of bullet points long of the stuff that she was perfectly fine with, which both should buy her some leeway from Trump and also should be a reminder to you that even if she doesn't like Trump now, she was okay with a lot of stuff. I mean, little stuff like, Donald Trump launching a coup. She was totally fine with that. She was fine with all the sexual assaults, the frauds, all the felonies. She had no problem with any of that. And so it's weird that he declares her a traitor, and also weird that people would totally uncritically accept her into the fold because she's done a lot of bad stuff. And even personally, there is video of her on stage groping the crotch of a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump. And even that didn't earn her any leeway from him. And so the fight is like totally on. We're gonna discuss that generally. Before we turn to our general discussion though, she is there with the Epstein survivors. So let's get a little bit from them as this fight continues.
We are hearing the administration say they intend to investigate various Democrats who were friends with Epstein. I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump. You are our president. Please start acting like it. Show some class, show some real leadership. Show that you actually care about the people other than yourself. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment.
She's 100% right about that. She voted for him. I would ask, look, maybe it's just a rhetorical point, but Trae, does she actually expect that he might show class or leadership? I mean, I think that ship sailed decades ago. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, one would think that pretty much anyone with eyes, ears, and a brain would understand that to be true, that no, he's not going to do it. He's incapable of those things. That's long since been proven, but people still manage to be surprised by Trump all the time, I guess. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene's a good example of one of the most consistent traits of this whole MAGA movement is that there's no real loyalty other than just to him as the emperor of the movement, and the idea of the leopards eating faces party. Like eventually, if you make one wrong move, like they will turn on you and he will turn on you. Like there's, that's all that matters. And like, to me, I don't know how anyone's ever surprised by that, but Marj seems pretty, hurt and betrayed by this development, but like she should have seen it coming, in my opinion. You touched on a thing I was going to bring up too. Like this happens every time, happened with like Liz Cheney, and we're like, someone says something like shockingly reasonable or whatever that we're not used to hearing that from, and people start to like seem to like him a little too much or whatever. And it's like, look, now you can appreciate, a brief glimpse of sanity or whatnot, but like she 100% still believes that like Jews control the weather with lasers and all that crazy shit. She's just, that's why she's doing this, is because like from the very beginning, the one thing about her is that she has been like a genuine maniac. You know what I mean? Like there's two types over there. I think it's generally accepted. There's the grifters and the true believers, right? And like Marj is definitely a true believer. So she's just like actually a right-wing lunatic populist or whatnot. And so she's been consistent the whole time. It's just now that it's, it's butting heads with what the official party line is because of what Donald Trump is trying to dictate. So, very predictable, but also can be enjoyable. I too look forward to the real fight. I love watching them, go at it. But yeah, not surprised by any of it.
Yeah, and you're totally right. She is. That's one of the things that really differentiates her from almost all of the other elected Republicans, is that she is a true believer. When she was posting, QAnon stuff on Facebook before getting elected, she was not playing to the base. She believed all that stuff. I mean, who knows now? She probably believed in adrenochrome and she believed in face eating and she believed that, like, that's the stuff she actually believed. And most of that is bad. I guess the good side effect seems to be she's up there at a press conference with Epstein survivors. And a lot of the Republicans that like would posture as if they believed in all the QAnon stuff and cared about the elite cabals and all that, they don't really care. To the extent that they're involved in this at all, it's that now some of them, like 5 of them, actually wanted the files released. Marj was one of them. Now, all of these Republicans that are like maybe unanimously gonna vote for it or not vote against it or whatever, they don't deserve any credit. Some of them are only doing it because Donald Trump has given them ridiculous, transparent political cover. Others are only doing it because it's gonna pass anyway, and they don't want it to be used against them in the future. The only ones that deserve any credit at all are the ones that made this an issue by sticking to their guns over the past couple of months. And even them, you don't have to give them any more credit than just that. They're still bad on all these other topics. Massey's not cool. I don't like Thomas Massie. I don't want to hang out with Thomas Massie, but he's good on this topic. And Marj is relatively good on this topic. She is still kind of pretending that Donald Trump wants transparency. I mean, she's mostly done with that, but she could have slammed him way harder on the way that he has tried to make this thing go away, the way he has protected and covered up for Jeffrey Epstein. So there's still movement that we could see, but yeah, no more credit than is necessary. But I am glad that she is at least pointing out that he is in this for himself. He's not in it for the American people. And with that said, let's turn to some of the other perspectives on this. Following what appeared to be an avalanche of violent threats against Marjorie Greene over the weekend because of the developing feud with Donald Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson had an opportunity to side with his colleague. Again, she's in his caucus. He's the leader for her, among others. He should defend her. Let's see if he does.
Would you advise the president to stop calling her a traitor?
I don't. Look, it's not surprising that the president was frustrated because of some of the criticisms that Marjorie had been out stating to the media, and of course she criticized me all the time. But I work on unity in the party, and my encouragement of everybody is to get together. We got to do that in order to live for the people.
Oh, that's a strong leader right there. Not even looking at the camera, not willing to say, stop inspiring death threats against our people. I mean, is that the minimum bar for a leader? Is stop calling her a traitor? Stop being asked about the death threats and responding to the question about the death threats by calling her a traitor again? But no, we can't do that. No, I want unity, and I would just say we should all get together. He is a real portrait of courage there, Trae. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's the number one thing I think of when I think of Mike Johnson is, courage and integrity and those things. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is what he does. It seems to be the purpose that he serves, just keeping everybody in line per Trump's orders and whatnot. It's like you said, they're all going to act like, I mean, I've already heard him say versions of like, this vote's going to be unanimous, right? This is what, because we demand transparency. And like you said, it's like, well, no, you don't. No, you haven't. You're doing it now because you can like get away with doing it. Like you said, Trump has given them permission to do so. You alluded to this earlier too. they might know that even when it does like pass the House, it's still, it might not ever come to fruition. The file still, there's still so many other obstacles to get through for that. There's a lot of different like theories on how that could be stopped, even if it gets through this. And maybe they know that, so it's easy for them to pretend to want the right thing when they know it's not going to actually matter at the end, and they can still hold everything together. So, it's just their usual baloney over there.
Yeah, I don't know what could end up happening after that in terms of the Senate. Donald Trump says he would sign it if it came to his desk. I don't believe anything that he says. It's entirely possible it'll come to his desk and he'll be like, no, it's not enough protections from the victims. I can't in good conscience sign this. And even if he does sign it, a lot of people believe that his new sham investigation of Bill Clinton or whatever is designed to stop the documents from coming out. So all of this is BS. And the thing is, like, I can say this, Trae can say this. For a lot of Republicans, they need Marjorie Greene to say this. They need Marjorie Greene to say, from the very beginning, Donald Trump has been covering up for Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump does not want the accomplices to come out. Donald Trump does not want justice for the victims. It's why Donald Trump will not be seen inside of a room with any of the survivors that are standing behind me. Donald Trump, I don't know for sure if Donald Trump did anything. But he's acting exactly as you would if you had done something with Jeffrey Epstein and some of the victims. But she's not to that point just yet. That said, Johnson is not the only person weighing in on this feud. Here is Ben Shapiro, who, bear in mind, is in his own feud, him and Tucker Carlson, and the MAGA civil war is fracturing along multiple lines. But here he is weighing in on one part of it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has been attempting to run essentially her own knockoff version, her Temu version of MAGA. She's been out retailing it to The View. She's been out retailing it to CNN and MSNBC. She's become the hot new thing in the legacy media. The Jewish space lady. That lady is the hot new thing with regard to legacy media. They now have strange new respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene because she has decided that she is going to attack Trump full time. This is all part of an attempt to turn MAGA into something it isn't. And let's be clear about what MAGA is. MAGA is President Trump, period. End of story. All attempts to reduce MAGA to some ideological form or fashion are bound to fail because President Trump is sui generis. He contains multitudes.
Ugh. I mean, look, I think the reason that he can say that is the issues that Marj and some other people, including Tucker Carlson, appear to have with Donald Trump bends on the Donald Trump side of that feud. And so for him, it's like, oh, how dare you? How could you possibly try to tear this great movement apart? If Donald Trump were to change on that, for instance, if he were to start, not sending money to Israel or whatever, I think Ben would be willing to weigh in at that point. It's just that the fracture point hasn't yet come up between him and Donald Trump. Also, Trae, nobody has nuance. Nobody. He is right that there are some Democrats or centrists or whatever that are all of a sudden like, Marjorie Greene's the best. But the idea that everybody's saying that, no, like he should watch our show or whatever. Also, the idea that she's attacking Trump full time. No, she's not, you jackass. Like, as I have been pointing out, I point out when she attacks him, I point out the extent to which she attacks him, and I also point out the many ways in which she could clearly and accurately go further, but is choosing not to. This feud is not primarily because of Marjorie Greene. She has been, for her, because I say this because of how deranged she is, she's been very measured. And she still, even when she's calling him a traitor, she could go further than that. And Ben Shapiro, again, he's not an intellectual. He's not an honest operator. He's lying constantly, always. And even here in describing this feud, can't be honest about it. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, one thing I thought he was incredibly honest about was that assessment of like what MAGA is. This is another example of that. I think we've talked about this before when I've been on your show, but I don't remember what the previous example was. But like sometimes I'll see a clip or read a quote or something from one of these people that like I just fully, completely agree with, but I know that they feel the exact opposite way about it that I do, right? And it like makes me feel insane. Do you know what I mean? He's like
what?
All MAGA is Donald Trump, right? It's not any like philosophy or or policy point or another. It's just Donald Trump. He's all that MAGA is, and I'm like, yeah, I know, like that. You don't think that's bad? Like, you don't think that's cultish? Like, that doesn't mean, you're basically in a cult? Or like, doesn't MAGA stands for Make America Great Again? Shouldn't you ostensibly at least like pretend that it's about America, as opposed to Donald Trump and making it better. Like, isn't that weird to admit openly that it all is just about the God Emperor at the top? But he's like, he's saying it in a very matter of fact, but also like, positive manner. Like, listen, this is what we all signed up for, and we all agree that this is good. And I just think that that's insane to me, But I agree with you too, though, that like you said, if and when Trump does something that that doesn't fit his own particular version of right wing nuttery or whatever, he'll start barking too. So he doesn't even really mean that, but yeah, it's pretty wild over there.
Yeah, look, I think everybody has a hierarchy of the things that are most important to them in politics. And I have no doubt that there's tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4 things that Donald Trump has done by the dozens that Ben Shapiro wouldn't prefer. The issue is that tier 1 is the American support for the government of Israel. And so long as Trump has the right position on that, and thus far he has, I don't think Ben cares about any of the other stuff. So insofar as Donald Trump goes, certainly not to the point where he would divorce himself from Donald Trump. Now we'll see if that ever changes, and it might, because Donald Trump is getting so much pressure from Republicans who no longer believe that we should be uncritically and endlessly supportive of whatever it is that the current government of Israel is willing to do.
You know what? I just remembered I remember the previous example of what I was just talking about is when I was on here and they were talking about us changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Right, and they talking about how it's true that that more accurately reflects the way that we act and all the stuff that we've done over the years as a country, But that stuff is bad. Like you're celebrating it, right? But I think it's bad. Yeah. So there we go. That would have tortured me all day if I couldn't.
I know, no, you got it,
and that's what it was.
I remember you making that point actually on the show, and you are totally right. And finally, and we'll actually no, I have other thoughts about MAGA and Trump and if it can be independent of him. I'm going to save that for the aftermath where we talk a little bit about whether he has lost control of the MAGA movement. I want to end this block though with something that just made me so mad, and I didn't even think it was capable of being like getting a spike of anger. I'm just generally so mad about everything that's going on. But no, some things can still break through the noise. Take a look at this.
Sir, if there's nothing incriminating in the file, Venezuela, sir, why is it on Venezuela, sir? You've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela.
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear that. I'm gonna tell you what was said. It ends with a question about Venezuela, but that's not what he was responding to. There's multiple reporters shouting at him. He didn't like the question the first reporter was asking about. He wanted to go to Venezuela, but what was the first? Well, a Bloomberg reporter who hasn't been identified, and I sort of understand at this point why they haven't, said if there's nothing incriminating in the files, sir, why not? And Donald Trump snaps back, quiet piggy. Quiet piggy, he said to a reporter. And Trae, feel free to disagree with me. Donald Trump does stuff that is so substantively damaging. He starts a war, he defunds a program, he kills NPR or whatever. He kills Snap, he hands $4.5 trillion to the rich. Those things are obviously more important than him deflecting from a good question with quiet piggy. But I am 10 times more angry. I can't really express the thoughts that went through my head when I saw that initially, but I just hate what it represents.
Right.
That this disgusting, grotesque criminal can say this and nobody cares.
Right.
It doesn't. If Biden had said that, it would be the wildest thing Biden had done all year. But it's not even a headline, Trae, that he responded. And I don't know, people are speculating that it was a woman. And based on what we know about Trump, I would imagine that it was. He calls women he doesn't like that he thinks especially are overweight. He calls them piggy. That's what he does. But it is just so grotesque that nobody will care about this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree completely. Yeah, it's representative of how far we've fallen. What the standard has become, where the bar is. It's in the basement. It's in the sub basement of hell. Actually, is where the bar is in this country now, and it's because of that guy. Because it's like you said, the idea that a president, any president ever, would do something like that, like knowing cameras are on, he's literally speaking to the press. Like there's there's no like possible, you can't present the idea that he didn't, he thought maybe, they were behind closed doors or something. No, the most open of all doors, right? Like, and he knows, and he just doesn't care. And then the fact that he's right, like you said, that it won't matter at all to anybody, and that no one who matters to him will care at all. It's just, it's infuriating. The mask is just completely off, not just in terms of how like corrupt and rotten and everything this country is in so many ways, but also like how like stupid and sophomoric too, which makes it all 10 times worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just makes it. Are you a 5-year-old boy? Are you a crappy 5-year-old boy? And let me ask a question to those who are watching live. Feel free to respond, and we're going to end in just a second. If you saw me being interviewed by a bunch of people, and you saw me respond to a question I didn't like, maybe there's a right-wing reporter or something, and I said, "Quiet, piggy," please tell me that you would never watch my show again. Please tell me that nothing that you might agree with me on or appreciate that I've done or whatever would get you to support me again. Because there should be things that are just hard and fast, bright lines that like shock your conscience, like, oh wait, no, why am I a part of this? Why am I supporting you? You're a terrible, terrible person. And then of course there's the added layer of the utter insane hypocrisy. Sir, do you not know what you are? And I like, even in response to this, there's like a terrible, like juvenile part of me that wants to throw things in his face. I'm not even gonna do it because that's not who I am. But sir, do you not know what you are?
Well, no, you've seen like the cards he makes of himself. Like he's got like a 6-pack, stiff arming a Democrat at the goal line as he scores a game-winning touchdown or whatever. Like it's like the light of heaven shines on him. He's got a cape blowing in the wind, and it's like that's how he sees himself, and that's how a lot of them see him too. So no, he doesn't know that. That's what's so about him and about all these people. Like you say things like, "Do you not realize?" And the answer is no. No, they don't realize.
Yeah.
That's what's so maddening about it. Like, and they can't, for like Dunning-Kruger reasons. They lack the capacity to be able to realize these things that infuriate us so much. And that makes it all ever more infuriating. Anyway.
President Dunning-Kruger, that is exactly it. Well, we are gonna have to end this block. I'm gonna try to cool off in the break, but we'll be back with more news after this. Cascadia Hermit says, "Are you interviewing the Muppet Piggy in this interview?" No, in this hypothetical, I'm not. And Herbery reminds us, he said unironically that he thinks he's more attractive than Zoran Mamdani. That is a good point. I mean, I don't think he believes that. I don't know. He is very deluded and his brain is decaying, but he can't possibly think he's more attractive than Zoran Mamdani. Anyway, let's get into some comments. Mies the Moose member for 1 full year says, "John and Trae, this is a good Tuesday." It is, thank you. Octo Squiddy says, "They should make Independence Day the musical. Broadway loves a reboot." I'd watch that. I mean, they did reboot the movie. Yeah. Did you see the second Independence Day? I did not.
Was not good. Yeah. Typical, Hollywood cash grab thing. Totally uninspired. Not good at all.
But if he had been in it, it still would have been a cash grab, but I think I would have seen it if he was in it.
Yeah.
As much as I am a huge Jeff Goldblum fan, but I need a little bit more to bring me a movie like that. I'm not ruling it out, but I haven't seen it yet. I really like the first movie.
Yeah,
I've always liked
that's like the standard bearer of like tentpole blockbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
That aren't part of a larger franchise. You know what I mean? Like it's like an original IP tentpole blockbuster, like the way we used to make.
Huge.
Yeah,
that I've probably watched 30 times in my life.
Right.
And who plays the president? Well, I never remember that actor's name.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman. I really like Bill Pullman. He reminds me of my dad in a weird way.
Okay.
So I've always really liked him.
I'll try to make this quick, but one thing about that movie, when I rewatched it for the first time in a long time, as I showed it to my sons when they were like 11-ish, so like 3 or 4 years ago, that climactic speech that Bill Pullman's character gives is so inspiring and awesome and everything, it like bummed me out so hard because I was sitting there thinking like, dude, this is like what we used to think the president was like. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like in the 90s, people were like, yeah, that's That's what an American president is and should be, or whatever. Like, you've never put a president like that in a movie now. People like,
oh my God, Trae.
Like, they make movies now and the president is like, it's John Cena, who's like a pro wrestler who turned president or whatever, because they know it's like, that's all people are going to buy, like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, look, even as much as I disagree with Obama still had kind of that
definitely
gravitas.
No, I'm just talking about Trump, post-Trump.
No, they should make, I don't know if it's SNL or whatever, but somebody should make a parody of that Independence Day thing, but it's him delivering the speech. I think there's some good stuff there. I always forget that you have kids that are like 14 years old. It seems impossible because you look like you're like 25.
Yeah.
No. But anyway,
you're too sweet.
Love that movie. And weird trivia. One of the most deranged things about me is that I tear up when the dude flies his plane into aliens.
That ain't deranged, you kidding me?
No, you do too?
Yeah, you're a red-blooded American with a heart. Of course you tear up at that part.
Just especially
every
knowing,
time,
like,
bro.
Politics. Yeah. Okay, that one. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that makes me tear up in movies. I'm a big sap like that. Like, I was a mess during like 30% of the last time I watched Homeward Bound. But yeah, there's just something about when he sacrificed himself flying in, even though that guy in real life is like a wackadoodle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I still like him. I was a big Christmas Vacation fan.
Thank you. I was just about to bring that up.
There you go.
Yeah, between the pilot and Independence Day and Cousin Eddie and Christmas Vacation, I'm just going to overlook Randy Quaid's present day lunacy.
I'll overlook a lot.
Maybe he wasn't that big of a lunatic at that time when he was making those movies, and that's what I like.
Well, it was a great time that we didn't have to know.
Right.
Unless you knew him, you wouldn't know. Now we unfortunately know everything. Okay, well, lots more news to get to, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, if you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into this next story. We are just about to hit Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of people looking ahead to it are thinking like, oh God, food's so expensive. How expensive is Thanksgiving going to be? And obviously this guy does not want you thinking about that. So he's dispatched some of his goons, including his economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, to try to convince you that you are wrong to think that things are more expensive than they were. Take a look.
The president claims that Thanksgiving costs are down 25%. I mean, does he know that's not true?
Well, if you look at Walmart and the few places that put out their prices of Thanksgiving baskets.
Wait a minute, I got to stop because the Walmart comparison's like not a thing. I mean, Walmart had a Thanksgiving package last year. They've got a Thanksgiving package this year. The one this year contains much less than what the one last year took. So that's why the price is less. Look, we got a chart here. Last year it was 21 total products. This year it's 15. Total number of items in those products was 29% now. 29 now it's 22. There's more generic brand stuff. So I mean, Thanksgiving, if you're going to the store to buy groceries for Thanksgiving, it's going to be more expensive this year.
I really don't understand where you're going in the sense that Joe Biden gave us 20%
He's not
inflation.
president. Donald Trump's president.
No, and you want us to fix the hole that Joe Biden
I'm just saying,
right away.
Why does the president tell
the prices went up so much under Joe Biden?
So first of all, I love that host had that ready because he's like, no, this dude is definitely gonna come and tell the lie that they keep telling about Thanksgiving. And then when he shows the incontrovertible evidence that that is a lie, the guy responds with, I don't know where you're going with this. I think where he's going, Jonathan Carl, I think it is. I think where he's going is that you're lying. Things are more expensive. And sure, you can say, there was a lot of inflation under Joe Biden or whatever. And you can pretend that it's all due to Joe Biden and not that we would just come out of a goddamn pandemic. And that, yes, Joe Biden did some of the big stimulus things that led to some inflation. But everybody forgets that there were 2 rounds of that under Donald Trump as well. That has just been erased from history, that Donald Trump did like half of the stimulus that led to that inflation. But whatever, that's a useless fight to re-engage in. But okay. Then that might be why you haven't gotten prices down to below where they were at in 2020 or something. But prices are higher than they were under Joe Biden. It's not that you haven't fixed it fast enough. It's getting worse than it was when Biden was still president. And of course, he doesn't want to engage with that. It's a very difficult position to be in, and you look like a goof, but that's what he is. Trae, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, during the Biden presidency, there were all these metrics that indicated that, the economy was doing great in a lot of ways, but inflation was like high. And I was saying the whole time, I was like, look, dude, I totally understand regular people that don't have like a stock portfolio and all this stuff, but that do buy eggs and everything. And those things are getting more expensive. You tell them, it's like, no, look, the economy's doing great. Don't you love it? I understand them being like, no, this sucks. Like I get that, but now it's like both. Now, like all the inflation stuff, the groceries, the kitchen table stuff is still bad. Healthcare has been a nightmare, and it's about to become an even more hellish nightmare for people. And the underpinnings of the economy writ large seem to be like teetering at best. So I don't know where all the outrage is all the time now. I know that there are people that are like concerned about it, but from my perspective, during the Biden regime, it was like that you literally only ever heard two things: eggs and his brain. Like that was the only two things that ever came up ever. Yeah. And Donald Trump's brain sucks, and groceries are still expensive as hell. Yeah. And on the one hand, he does, as already evidenced by the rest of the show, he does give ample opportunity to be terrified and furious about a great many other things also, in a way that Joe Biden did not. But still, I just, it's supposed to be, it's about the economy, stupid, or whatever, right? Well, I want to see that happen, some actual accountability, outrage, repercussions eventually. Like I'll stop now, but my home county, which in Tennessee, which voted for Trump, 85%, is just literally since he's taken office has been ravaged already, and it's only going to get worse. And I just wonder like what's going on there with them, because I'm afraid the answer is that even if it all ends with them slowly expiring in the dust, that with their last shuddering breath, they will curse Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi or whatever, instead of actually blaming Donald Trump for it somehow. So,
safe bet.
Yeah.
We'll move on. I'll just say Joe Biden's strategy seemed to be saying the economy is getting better and not focusing on inflation, and that obviously didn't work for him. Trump's strategy is to say, no, inflation is getting better when it's not. Mm-hmm. That seems worse. It's a weird strategy, but that's what they're sticking with. Anyway, with that said, let's turn away from the abstract food to specific places where food is getting more expensive, starting with this.
You would have had a catastrophe. You probably would have had a bankrupt country. You are so damn lucky that I won that election. I'm telling you. It's actually true.
So that is a very healthy sounding Donald Trump talking at the McDonald's Impact Summit, which I imagine is the impact that McDonald's has on your waistline and your bowel movements. I don't know, I've never been invited or whatever, but they seem to like Donald Trump. And his point there was, we would all be, our country would be bankrupt if I hadn't got elected and instituted massive tariffs that have been effectively a tax to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars on American taxpayers. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think a lot of people were crying out for additional taxes on the things that they buy every day and need to. And I also don't understand how the government would have run out of money if you hadn't done the tariffs. It's not like the deficits were utterly exploding over the past few years. And if you were concerned about government revenue, I think that giving a tax cut of $4.5 trillion to the wealthiest people in the country is a weird way to go about solving it. But that's the weird elitism of Donald Trump. He goes into a room with a bunch of people who own McDonald's franchises and probably do stand to benefit from those tax cuts, and then talks about his policies, which have screwed over many of his base, and he knows that they're mad about it, and then tells them they should be happy for the things that he did. It's very strange. We have a little bit more. Take a look.
Chief executive and your chairman and everybody else, they tell me prices at McDonald's are coming down. It's moving down. We're looking at affordability. We're going to bring it down for everybody, because not everybody understands the fact that a great stock market is great for everybody. And wages for hourly workers are rising at the fastest pace in 60 years. And sometimes you might say, was that good or bad? It's great for you. The minimum wage thing you'll have to be talking about. You're going to have to fight. We were talking about California, Gavin Newsom from California. And I knew he's laying siege on the minimum wage. And you people probably know, because that's a very complex subject, and you people probably know better than anybody the impact one way or the other, good or bad. And you're going to let your local congressmen, your senators know about it.
Okay, so I apologize for making you listen to all that because, man, Grandpa is just all over the place. He is so he's like, okay, we got to get prices down because the stock market being up is good for everyone. Those don't have anything to do with each other. And most people have long since given up on the stock market going up being good for everyone. That's just not how it works. Then he says, and isn't it awesome that prices are going down at McDonald's, which they're not. We're going to get to that. So he's just lying. And then it's great that wages are going up. Yeah, higher wages. Oh, also the minimum wage. You guys are going to want to stop that from going up. Gavin Newsom, he's trying to raise the minimum wage. He's new scum. Everybody laughs. So which is it, Trae? Is it good that wages are going up? Or should the elites rally to kneecap that and make sure that people don't get paid more? I'm very confused.
Yeah, I mean, I needed you to do what you just did and give like an actual summary or translation of what he was even trying to say there, because I sort of, spaced out halfway through. I couldn't really follow it. I mean, like you said, yeah, as soon as you start talking about how wages are going up, that's good. In my head, I was like, but y'all want to keep wages down, don't you? And then he immediately pivots to like, of course, minimum wage. But then he like backed off of that. So he was be like, you guys know, you'll do whatever, you'll do something. But I'm just assuming though, I don't know. I'm unaware of the McDonald's Impact Summit. I also have never been invited, but I'm assuming this is not, there ain't no rank and file people here, right? This is all like C-suite or at least like corporate McDonald's people or whatever.
It's executives and people who franchisees, people who own McDonald's franchises.
So people who probably want to pay their employees as little as they possibly can and get away with it, I would assume. So that's his, his audience there. But again, they definitely know, they for sure know that their prices are not coming down, but they probably are like, they probably do like the president lying about that publicly because, they want people to think maybe their prices are going down, even though they're not. So, you have to keep the audience in mind here if they could even parse, the general spew of just rambling lunacy that his speeches are and have become increasingly so. But I don't know. I forgot where I was going. Turning into Donald Trump over here.
Well, we've both had our brains shredded by listening to him. So I'm going to end this by grounding everyone with the actual facts. The prices have not been going down. I still, look, for all my jokes, I like McDonald's. I grew up eating McDonald's. I still like eating it. I know that it's killing me somewhat slowly, somewhat quickly, but I like it. But it is not a cheap place to eat anymore. And it's getting more expensive. This year, prices are up 3.2%. Not just at McDonald's, fast food restaurants in general. It's getting more expensive. Donald Trump, please pay attention. And by the way, they are rising at a rate higher than inflation by almost 10%. So bear that in mind. Again, I've been saying for years, Donald Trump is doing a lot of things that not only will necessarily drive up prices, but also will optionally drive up prices. Because when everybody knows the prices are going up, businesses get to decide, well, maybe I can squeeze out a little bit more. I mean, everybody knows prices are going up. That's my fear. The average price of a McDonald's menu item rose 40% from 2019 to 2024. That is a massive rise. And you can see in an even shorter period, during that time period, like a 10-piece McNuggets meal with a drink and fries went from $7.19 to $9.19. And it ain't because they switched over to using real chicken. Let me just say that. You're still getting the same slop you were before, but you're now paying a couple dollars more for it. And my producer put into our Slack an old archival image of the dollar menu. And many of you kids might be too young to remember, you could get a bunch of stuff for $1 at McDonald's. McChickens, sundae, pies, parfait, McDouble. And that, in my mind, Trae, that's still what a McChicken is supposed to cost, is $1. So when I pay $3.79 for it, I'm not happy about that.
When I was in college, it was the dollar menu. To me, that was McDonald's is a little bit like you said. I grew up on it, whatever. McDonald's has some like nostalgic ties and there's some sentimentality there, whatever. But a lot of these other fast food brands, I don't understand. I don't know how this is supposed to be sustainable or whatnot. Because not to throw a complete stray to this company, but like using Subway as an example, The only reason to go to Subway was that you could get a footlong for $5, right? $5 footlong. You only went there because it was $5, not because it was good. Now in like California, they're like $18 or whatever. They're like, 10 to 18. And yes, like the McChicken, you got it because you could get it for $1 and like a McDouble for another $1 and a fry for $1. Now you spent $3. You got like, you know, enough to make yourself. That was the point of it. If it's all expensive as hell, just eat somewhere else. Get something else.
Burger.
There's no point in eating this stuff if it's expensive. I don't get how this is supposed to be a sustainable long-term, a strategy for them.
Yeah. We're gonna go to a break. I got some more thoughts about fast food, but we'll see everybody on the other side of this. Two things. One, in the same way that I have nostalgia for McDonald's, I have nostalgia for IHOP. That was always like my favorite place that my family would go every once in a while or whatever. And I took my daughter to IHOP over the weekend, and I got like the protein pancake platter or whatever, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was like $14.50 base price, and like in my mind, like pancakes at IHOP should be like $7.99, but it has gotten expensive. It is an actual issue. And also, when I used to work at the mall, I don't know if you ever worked at a mall, but I'm
from a place that can't support malls. The closest mall to where I grew up is 40 miles away, and it's been dead since 1994. So,
well, I used to go and get the McDonald's in the cafeteria or whatever, and I used to love to get, and this is, it's weird that I ended up gaining a lot of weight later in life, but I would get 4 McChickens, $4 for like a pile of sandwiches was just, it seems impossible now to think about, but it was a pretty sweet deal back then.
Sure was.
Anyway, yeah, oh well. Okay, so couple things. One, M. Moore, member for 8 months, says a Trump appointed judge just blocked the Texas maps for the 2026 midterms. Now look, that could be overturned and probably will be. But if that were to go through and the California maps are active and the Texas ones are, I'm going to literally die from laughter.
Yeah.
And I'm worried for my daughter that she's gonna lose her dad. And it's a Trump appointed judge? What is going on? Okay, we're gonna look more into that. I don't have
I was about to say, that sounds almost too good to be true to me. The idea that could actually happen. But would be sweet.
Well, M. Muir, just for tantalizing me as you have, I'm gonna give you a Blue Apron gift card. I hope that this doesn't encourage people to send fake news to convince to sway me, but send an email to rewards@tytnetwork.com with your handle and we'll get you hooked up. Thank you for that. Okay, Galfar says in the Twitch comments, John, you, Brett, and Trae need to do a movie review podcast. That would sound like so much fun. I would love it.
I'd love to. Yeah, let's do it. At least a couple one-offs or something,
That would be fun. I actually, you know what you should do? This is totally separate from my work here, but I have a Patreon where I write short stories. And every month I do like a discussion of like a book or a TV show or a movie or a game or whatever. You should do an episode with me at some point.
Yeah, I'll gladly do it, buddy. You got my email. Let me know.
Thank you. I will. Yeah, long term, I would love to not talk about politics ever.
I know.
I mean, that's the dream.
Before this last election, I had like kind of a plan in my head I thought if Kamala won, and I was like, if that happens, then maybe we could start to put some of this behind us, some of this like this Trump insanity or whatever. And I was like, I'll pivot more to just like comedy first, like try to get away from politics and we can all just move on with our lives. And then it went the other way. And now we're just as steeped in it as I've ever been.
I know. I mean, you could do that. You have monetizable skills.
Right.
This is all I have. I got nothing. There's no off ramp for me. Save yourself, Trae. Save yourself. Anyway, okay, let's see. Mama Bear Dragon, member for 59 months, says, my son turns 7 tomorrow. I remember you wishing him a happy 2nd birthday. Time sure does fly. Wow, that's crazy. Well, happy pre-7th birthday to your son. Okay, Ron Maiden sent 5 memberships on YouTube. Super nice of you, thank you. CDN Northstock Dad gifted 1 as well. Thank you so much for that. Okay, we got more news coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. Okay, everybody, before we jump into the news, I just want to remind you about a new partnership that we're doing here at TYT. We are teaming up with Noble Mobile, which is the only wireless plan that can actually pay you for using your phone less. The way that it works is you can get through their Noble plan unlimited data for $50 a month. And then at the end of the month, any data that you don't use, you actually get money, you get cash back for not using it. So rather than that money just disappearing into the endless pockets of shareholders and billionaires, it instead goes to you. And people who switch to Noble say on average they save each year about $500 to $1,000 on their phone bill. So if you're interested in finding out more about this or switching to Noble, you can go to go.tyt.com/switch. And doing so supports TYT and our mission of delivering true independent media. Again, that's go.tyt.com/switch, or you can use the QR code, which is visible on the screen right now. And with that said, let's turn now to the topic of war.
Also potentially launching strikes in Mexico, or putting American troops or American personnel into Mexico to deal with the
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me.
Oh, well, if it's okay with you, then sure, let's have a little war. That'll be a fun little detour on your path to getting the Nobel Peace Prize next year, President Trump. But that said, he has more on what I guess is the
Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is... Look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? You know, there's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
It is, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know who the 15% would be.
Yep.
It wouldn't be you.
No, that's for sure.
No, I think it's been...
tons and tons of...
You would say that's a big signal.
Absolutely.
Would I do that on the land corridors? I would absolutely. Look, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. Not to mention the destruction of families.
Because I don't know what is my favorite part of that is one is them now coming up with a new euphemism, which is it's not war with Mexico, it's bombing the land corridor. The land corridor has traditionally been called Mexico. It would be bombing a sovereign nation, but I guess that sounds not PC enough. So we're gonna go with bombing the land corridor. I love him turning to all of his aides and be like, hey, you wouldn't wanna be randomly murdered at sea, would you? And he's like, no, I would not wanna be murdered at sea. It's very fun that way. And I didn't even know this, Trae. Each boat that they bombed didn't just kill some potentially innocent fishermen, it saved 25,000 American lives. Well, they've blown up like 20 now. So I'm assuming when the yearly drug death count comes out, it's gonna be 0 for 2025, I would guess. What do you think?
Yeah, probably be, commensurate with next year's number of pounds lost. Remember RFK Jr. said that Americans were gonna lose like 500 million pounds or something like that in the next year because of the MAGA efforts. Yeah. I mean, yeah, as you just saw with the McDonald's clips a little ago, they literally just say things. They've done that. And the cliche of the lying politician has been around our entire lives, but they've just really taken it to whole new heights. It's just completely shameless. They just say whatever he in particular, but all of them really just say whatever they want, and people just nod their heads and go, literally, yes, sir, that's right. Oh, very impressive. Oh, it sounds great. It's like it's not completely insane. But I just don't. We all know America. We collectively have a goldfish memory in this country and everything. But oh, this is all about the drugs or whatever. I mean, I recall we fought a war with drugs, and drugs won. I feel like everybody knows that drugs won the war on drugs, and that's because drugs can't lose. I don't know if you know anything about drugs. There's no, but obviously this actually has nothing to do really with the drugs. Probably it's just him. It's just some more mongering stuff. It's a nice distraction anytime some wag the dog shit or whatever. Who knows? But it's probably the drugs are just a justification, but even in that context, it's stupid. So
if it was really about the drugs, they'd seize the boat and they'd show the drugs. Again, many of the boats couldn't have even made it to America. This is all just absurd. And the idea that you turn to Kristi Noem as if she knows anything about this. She spent the past 6 months filming commercials. She doesn't know about Aragua. She doesn't know about the boats. Stop playing. This is all just cosplay. But anyway, it's also not the only war we're apparently about to start. Mexico is one thing, but he's setting his sights on something perhaps even bigger. Take a look.
You suggested.
Is there what?
It sounds like there's a follow-up there, but can I ask you about Venezuela?
I thought you said there was a polyp, and I said, I don't want to hear that. Okay.
You suggested you've made a decision about what you want to do next about Venezuela. I understand you don't want to tip your hand. Is there anything you're ready to rule out at this point? Are you ruling out U.S. troops on the ground?
No, I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela.
Yeah, we just have to. I looked at Mexico City and I didn't like it, so maybe we bomb. And we have to take care of Venezuela. Again, this is your peace president, everybody. Nobel Peace Prize, anti-intervention. We're gonna start bombing our neighbor to the south, and we're not even gonna stop at bombing Venezuela, the land corridor. Troops on the ground. That's where that's moving. And look, this isn't the first indication. We're sending aircraft carriers and everything. Like, everybody needs to wake up that this is what the bombing the boats is not about drugs, especially when fentanyl doesn't even come from there. It's a pretext to get people comfortable with the idea that we're in a military conflict with this country. And then once you've got them comfortable with that, then you can bomb the land corridor and then you can land some troops. I mean, they already have the CIA operating on the ground there, and eventually troops. And Donald Trump will have once again got us into a massive actual war on the ground. I really fast thoughts, Trae. I know we're running out of time.
Well, yeah, like as you alluded to, just a huge chunk of the support he had, especially I feel like in parts of like the comedy world or entertainers or like younger people and whatever else. But a big thing that they hung their hat on with him was the like isolationist stuff, right? Like you said, like if nothing, I don't care, whatever. Those wars are none of our business. Like, let's worry about here at home. That's supposed to be a big thing for them. And so, where are those people now when he's doing this? Because they're probably beating the drums, I would imagine. Most of them are just, flip-flopped overnight. Actually, I forgot I love war. How'd that slip my mind?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that said, let's end on something light here. Kash Patel, who, like everyone else in the Trump administration, just thinks that the job is not about serving the American people. It's about his weird stuff and using government funding for his own benefit. Here's the latest example of that. MS Now, which I'm never gonna get used to saying, reported Monday that the FBI director reallocated officers from the Bureau's Nashville SWAT team to protect his girlfriend, 27-year-old Alexis Wilkins, the country singer. So we'd already previously talked about the fact that he apparently used like FBI private jets to go like hang out with her at a concert or something. Now a SWAT team is protecting her. So she says, and I have no reason to believe that she's lying, that she has received death threats. I don't know who would be sending them. I don't know, like, who cares enough to do that? But let's say that it's actually happening. She sent some DMs that she's apparently gotten, things like, can't wait to celebrate your death, especially if I'm the one causing it. That's obviously scary. Someone needs to kidnap her, and you need to touch a bullet. So look, it should go without saying that nobody should be sending her death threats. I don't like when Marjorie Greene's getting death threats. I don't like when this random country singer gets death threats or whatever. But as Eric Swalwell points out, while he agrees that nothing should happen to her, it's also strange that like Congress people who were receiving specific repeated death threats, as you can see in this tweet, they're not getting protection from FBI SWAT teams and all that. And so you might think, oh, well, a notable person is getting threats, you get protection. That's not how it works. If I get death threats, Kash Patel doesn't send a sniper to protect me. He's doing this because it's his girlfriend. And again, for the 1,000th time, nothing should happen to her, but it is a corrupt use of FBI funds to send a SWAT team to protect someone who just happens to be dating someone who works at the FBI. That is not what those resources are used for. And if they're being used for that, Trae, they're not being used for whatever SWAT teams are supposed to be being used for. What do you think?
Yeah, well, on that last note, I would imagine that most of our, with how heavily militarized our like police and law enforcement is in this country, they probably have time on their hands. I would bet. I bet there's way more SWAT type resources than are usually needed, if I was guessing. Okay. But yeah, to me, the Swalwell tweet is really like highlights the problem with it. Say all the time, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. But that I don't know. I don't know how it works. The idea that like a spouse, sure, she's not a spouse, she's the girlfriend, but the significant other of some like government official who has received death threats, that they might use resources to protect that person or whatever. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they do that with witnesses and stuff like that. But knowing that, that this too is partisan, that if you're like a Democrat or the girlfriend of a Democrat or whatever, that they're going to tell you to go pound sand and deal with it, makes it like undeniably a problem, and it's probably a problem anyway. It's like I said, I just don't know how that actually works, but knowing that, it works only that way for people that are on the right team definitely makes it some BS.
Yeah, it feels so inequitable that like at the same time that you have Donald Trump repeatedly calling Marjorie Greene a traitor, even though she's saying it is leading to these death threats. Meanwhile, he's like, oh, well, my girlfriend, if she received a message. I don't know, and again, it's Kash Patel who already is wasting taxpayer dollars to go on dates with her or whatever. After like less than 2 years ago, on 2023, he specifically attacked the previous director of the FBI for using private jets for personal travel. And then he's like, oh, well, now it's me. It's actually pretty sweet. I want to be able to do that. It's just, it's funny money. I can use it for whatever I want. And that's how they're all acting. Kristi Noem getting 2 private jets and jetting all around the country to film her little music videos and everything. And Pete Hegseth's got to have his own little makeup station installed in the Pentagon. They're all just using government funds as their own piggy bank for living out their influencer lifestyles. That's what it feels like to me. And if he wants to do this with his girlfriend, then at the very least, make those resources available to all of the other people on the receiving end of death threats, in no small part because of the sorts of things that you and your administration are saying about them. In any event, that's all the time we have. We got more coming up in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. I am here, Trae obviously as well. By the way, Trae, partially I think because of your comment about Subway, there's been an ongoing conversation in the chats about fast food generally, but also Subway. I like Subway. I know that I'm literally eating Pop-Tarts as I do this, and I like I am a very basic person in terms of the food that I like or whatever, but I like a good Subway sandwich, you know? It is too expensive though.
I can't cotton to that at all. There's literally a story that I've told before. Like when I first went like full time in comedy and started touring on the road and stuff, I was like 30 years old, and I actually was like, I'd been poor my entire life, and I finally had like a little bit of money, and I was driving from one city to another to do a show, and stopped at like a truck stop that has Subway in it. And I got a Subway sandwich, and I was sitting there in the parking lot waiting for like a notes call to start or something, eating this sandwich. And I don't know. I just looked at it. I was like not enjoying it. And then I just looked at it and I was like, I'm never eating this again as long as I live. And I threw it away.
It's like a stereotypical moment.
Yeah.
In like a relationship when like you look at the partner, you're like, this isn't working.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened with me.
With a meatball
Subway. Yeah. It was an Italian BMT. But yeah, and I still like Italian subs, just not from there, for the record. I'm a big sub guy. I just don't like Subway.
Okay. I mean, back in the day, I would go to Quiznos every once in a while. That's a good
Sure.
I had the same moment with KFC. I got it once in LA, and I'm sure that they just didn't, like something went wrong. They didn't cook it or whatever. And it was the grossest thing I've ever been served in my life. And I can't get past it now when I think about KFC, is that experience. Yeah. Anyway, with that said, we'll return to fast food. Don't worry. We got some more politics for you though, starting with this.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else.
I think Trump doth protest too much, perhaps. First of all, make America great again. He was not the first person to say it. It's fine, like conservatives seem to like it. I guess he gets some credit for that or whatever. But like right now, I think there's a real open question about whether the MAGA movement is just him, either the official MAGA movement or like the people who were super into the MAGA movement. Because as we covered yesterday on the show, there's this new trend online of people who used to be MAGA taking off their red hats and putting on their blue hats that have America first, America only. It's the AFAU movement, I've christened it. And so is he starting to fall up? Like he says in that video, I alone know what MAGA wants. But does he? Because he's making a lot of blunders. They don't seem to like his position on Israel. They don't seem to like his unwillingness to acknowledge inflation. Some of them aren't happy about the whole H-1B visa thing. And obviously Epstein has been a big story throughout the year. And he seems to really not get that. Now, he does give some indications that he knows that politically they're in trouble. I mean, after all, he's focusing so much on gerrymandering, seemingly understanding that the only way they're gonna maintain control of the House is by cheating their way to it. And so at one point, I think last night I took this screenshot, it was 3 straight messages just about how we need to clear out all of those bastard rhinos in Indiana that won't gerrymander for him. And some of them, by the way, are now bending after all of this pressure, but that's an indication that he gets that the movement is not, in terms of the polling, going the way that he would like. He had that bad interview with Laura Ingraham. I mean, that clip was from it, but she was pressing him on things like H-1B visas and all of that. And that's some pressure on him. Of course, there's the Epstein vote, which could happen any moment now. It's expected to happen today. And some people think the vote is going to be unanimous, which is not how it looked just a few weeks ago. Charlie Cook, the producer or publisher of the Cook Political Report, says silence among the GOP lawmakers has been the dog that didn't bark, which is an expression getting a lot of play these days, and for a really long time. And now they're starting to yelp a little bit. They're kind of stepping out, but gingerly. And the Epstein vote is an indication of that. He didn't want that to happen, but he has lost his ability to stop it. He now has to pretend that he wants it to happen. Of course, he also wanted the filibuster to be destroyed, and they haven't thus far been willing to give him that. This is a level of opposition to Donald Trump's will that we haven't really seen from Republicans in the past. And while all this is going on, what is he focusing on? Like, sure, gerrymandering, that's political, I guess. Ballrooms and marble bathrooms and I don't know, that weird walkway of the presidents and paving over the Rose Garden. It's all this surface level weird elite stuff. We just found out yesterday he had to be stopped from putting up a chandelier in the Oval Office because evidently the room wouldn't support the weight of the crazy chandelier he wanted to put on. And this is not the sign of a guy who really has the pulse of the movement. It's a guy who is just sort of like full of himself, happy in the luxury that he's got. I don't know, Trae, what do you think? We were talking about something like this earlier today, but what do you make of it?
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of maybe betrayed my initial position earlier when talking about how I agreed with Ben Shapiro when he said that MAGA is Donald Trump and nothing else. That's certainly the way it's generally been. I mean, yeah, I could see some sort of cracks forming here, as you've outlined. I think that you could argue in both directions. I think what it comes down to is a ratio at the end of the day, because I fully believe that there's a certain percentage of what has been MAGA who are immovable when it comes to him. And I mean, it's like, who do you think is giving Marjorie Taylor Greene all these death threats, right? Yeah. There's been clips of people, literally justifying like pedophilia and child sexual abuse and that type of stuff, like, calling into radio shows and podcasts and things that have gone viral this week from MAGA people who are like, that's how hard they're swinging. Like they'll justify that if that's what it takes to stay loyal to Donald Trump. So like there's still out there for sure. And I think that those people, I really don't think there is a line that can be crossed. But what I don't know is, what percentage of what, again, we have been calling MAGA, what percentage of that is made up of those people versus the ones who, whatever, they need some kind of deity or icon, but they're willing to replace Trump with another one at the end of the day. And I don't know, I guess time will tell, but that's one of the major questions of our age, I think, is waiting to see how that ultimately turns out. Because also, look, there's like a pragmatism to it too. Not that that's been a hallmark of theirs, but he's he's old and infirm and everything. Like Father Time is undefeated. Like they're going to have to figure something else out at some point, and I'm sure that's at least crossed some of their minds. So, I don't know, maybe some cracks are forming. But yeah, like you said, in the meantime, it all feels like legacy stuff to me. Like he's like become aware of his mortality or something lately. It feels like we're talking about like, am I going to heaven and all this like this stuff that he's building up. He's building up this like a palace, like like a pharaoh or something. He's like trying to turn DC into the capital like from the Hunger Games. Like it's weird.
Yeah, it does have that feel of like wanting to build a pyramid or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think every president eventually loses control over the party. Like you become a lame duck. That's more in my mind. Like this is sort of getting tied up with the whole MAGA thing because he's not just a president, he is the head of this insane cultish movement. But I think this is kind of a weird version of the normal thing that happens, which is normally after the midterms, they would be moving on to who's going to be the next president. He starts to lose his control. I just feel like with how clearly the midterms are going against them, that process is just happening a little bit faster than normal. And you combine that with, as you say, the expectation that he could drop any day. I'm not saying he's going to. I expect he'll live a couple more years. But if he were to just drop this weekend, would you be shocked? I mean, look at how viral. When he didn't tweet for a few days and he didn't show up in public, a lot of people believed he died because it's plausible at this point. And so I think a lot of politicians who expect that their careers will last longer than the next 2 years are looking ahead to what's gonna happen after Donald Trump. And I think all those things are combining in an interesting way. But anyway, why don't we move on to other stuff? We've got some breaking news we'll get to in a little bit. But first, I just wanted to touch base with a light story. Let's jump into this. Elon Musk got triggered yet again over something that was going on in pop culture, this time having to do with Billie Eilish. She was at the Wall Street Journal Innovator Awards and she was doing an acceptance speech. And in it, she called out billionaires for hoarding their wealth in ever increasing dragon-sized piles as the rest of us are really struggling. And she's saying that you could do better than that. She says people need empathy and help more than kind of ever, especially in our country. And on her Instagram stories, she shared these images. We can show you them now. Like for instance, Elon Musk became the world's first trillionaire. Here's what he could do with it. It points out that he could easily, for a tiny fraction of his wealth, end world hunger or provide universal, safe, clean water. They also then point out how easily they could save all of the endangered species or even do something big like rebuilding Gaza and still be the richest person in the world. But obviously they're choosing not to do this. And Elon Musk is the worst example of this because he has the most money. But there's a lot of billionaires like this that seem to only be focused on having that number in their account. And who cares what happens to the rest of us? They've got their compound in Hawaii or whatever. And so Elon Musk didn't like that. And rather than doing something productive or introspective, he just responded to a tweet saying, "She's not the sharpest tool in the shed," which is a great response and a mature response, a funny response. It's why he's such a charismatic figure in our politics. But look, he's not gonna respond well. He's not a mature person, he's not a smart person, he's not a good person. It's why so many people don't like him. The thing that was more surprising to me was the number of his cultists who jumped in to defend his mountain of wealth, pretending as if no, Elon Musk actually is the most charitable person in the world. Like this guy who pays $8 a month to Elon Musk to be on Twitter says, Elon's companies return hundreds of billions of dollars annually into the economy through employee salaries, shareholder growth, supply payments. For the value of the ownership package, shareholders win more than Elon. Humanity wins more than shareholders. So that's a reference to the $1 trillion pay package if like he lets robots invade the world or whatever. No, it's actually great for everybody. That's what they would have you believe. This is a stronger cult in a lot of ways than even MAGA. These people share these articles saying he's not sitting on a pile of cash, he's burning it to keep humanity alive. That's how much he cares about, the environment and all that. I mean, that's after all why he bought Tesla, is he just wants us to have these environmentally friendly cars, which is why he was okay with the subsidies being killed because he thought it would give him a competitive advantage, even if it overall reduced adoption of electric vehicles. Look, all this is nonsense. But these people, Trae, are just so high on his fumes. They think he's a genius. They think he is charitable. They think he's burning his wealth, even though he's worth like 10 times what he was just a couple years ago. But they believe it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's insane to me. I don't get what these people think they're going to get out of, licking this boot this voraciously and everything for this long. Like, what, you going to be like a favored gimp in the after times, when the apocalypse comes, like he's going to spare you or something? What do you think's going to happen? The people that worship billionaire, and I know the long-standing assumption has been like, what is that? The saying that every, in their own minds, half of Americans are just temporarily inconvenienced billionaires or something like that. Like, they all just think they're going to get there eventually, and when they do, they want to be able to hoard their own dragon, volcano filled with gold or whatever. So, but I don't know what it is with Elon. Is specifically one of the great retrospective embarrassments of my life, even though I know I was far from alone in this, is when he first became a thing. Like, I kind of bought what he was selling early on when he was like showing up in Iron Man movies, because that was his like public image, was the real life Tony Stark, and the way he talked about things. I'm doing this electric car thing because of, global warming, and I'm doing Neuralink because of being worried about AI, and I want to colonize the stars, and all this stuff that stupid sci-fi loving me has always like cared about and thought was cool. But like, dude, that cat's been out of the bag for a long time now. And I don't know how you could just watch him talk, or the public appearances he makes, or the Hitlers that he heils, and just still, worship him that way. I just don't get it. Again, that to me, that's like, if he just would have stayed like a reclusive billionaire once he established that sort of brand to begin with, and then he just kept his mouth shut for a long time, I think, he'd still be pretty universally at least like respected or whatever. But he just can't keep his mouth shut. He cares too much about being cool when he's one of the most fundamentally uncool people on planet Earth. And he just keeps putting his foot in it over and over. But for some of these people, he can never do too much. He can never go too far. So I don't know.
He would still be popular if he just never opened his goddamn stupid mouth, but he couldn't do it. And I will never, we'll end on this. I don't understand why, even just to be more liked, he wouldn't do some of this stuff. Right. $1 to $2 billion a year to effectively save potentially tens of thousands of species. Just do it, even just to trigger the environmentalists, because they wouldn't want you to be the one that saves them, but you could do it, and it would be nothing. It would be like me spending $3 or something, but he doesn't do it, because even though he does want to be loved, he's just that hateful and that stupid. I'll never understand it. But that said, I want to end with a little discussion about some of the breaking news that we saw, or that we were sent by a member of the audience earlier. So let's jump right into this. Obviously, the midterms are not looking good for the Republicans, and they're doing everything they can to maintain their control over Congress. And by that, I mean just gerrymandering. That's it. They're not doing anything to win over voters. They just want to take seats. And they were very successful in that in Texas, or at least we thought. They did their new map that would give them, they thought, 5 seats. But now in comes the U.S. District Court that governs over that area. And U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Brown has now ordered the state to instead use House district lines adopted by the Texas legislature back in 2021 for next year's congressional elections, effectively voiding this new map. The dispute was heard by a 3-judge panel, which divided 2-1 in finding that voting rights groups that challenged the map were likely to prove that the 2025 map is an unconstitutional racial gerrymander, which is not only overall, this is funny, but that's the same thing that the DOJ is trying to use in a very hypocritical way to take down the California map, which I believe is a political gerrymander, but it's not racial. It's not like Gavin Newsom's like, I want to screw over racial minorities or whatever. That's ridiculous. But in this case, they did actually do that in the way they broke up some districts, including around Houston. And what's interesting about this is not just that Texas might end up losing out of their map, but that California might still have theirs, which was only done in response to Texas. But Jeffrey Brown was nominated by Donald Trump back in 2019. So it's one of Trump's guys that did that, which makes it slightly harder to pretend that this is a Democrat hoax. What do you think?
Yeah, well, this came up earlier, maybe during a break, I can't remember, but the idea that this might be happening. But yeah, and I said it just feels almost too good to be true. Like, I'm sure it'll be appealed and whatever. The way courts work has always been kind of mystifying to me, because it feels like anytime you hear like good news, you're like, oh, great, I'm looking forward to that. But inevitably, within a couple of weeks or months or whatever, there's another headline of some circuit court judge somewhere or some injunctions filed or something. Or they ruled it like, no, never mind. That good thing you wanted, that's not going to be happening. That's, in my experience, that's usually how it goes. But if for once ever it did go the other way, and like you said, just the deliciousness of the potential scenario where the Texas one gets shot down, but the California one goes through is just, I almost can't dare to dream that could actually come to pass, because that would be pretty sweet indeed.
The way you described, like something will happen and then it's struck down and then it comes back and then that's totally been my experience. And so, look, I wouldn't get too excited about this. The Supreme Court is a partisan body and they want Republicans to be in charge. So it's possible that they will overrule this. We'll see if they rule. Again, it's not like they have a ton of time to do that. I mean, the maps have to be ready for people to campaign and everything. So we'll see, but it would just be delightful. My question to the audience is, since the California map was only passed because of the Texas one, if the Texas one doesn't go into effect, should we just choose not to use ours to be fair? No, obviously not. No, obviously not. But we should eventually look, and maybe this could get us one step closer if we twist their arm enough to get them to be okay with independent national redistricting that is not done in a partisan fashion by partisan actors, but is instead done to reflect the actual political leanings of the state and to provide a fair distribution of seats. Maybe we could eventually get to that, in no small part because of this, but we will have to see. I imagine though that if you go to Truth Social, Donald Trump is probably blowing up over this right now. So if you want a little bit more schadenfreude, feel free to go to Truth Social. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for the show. Trae, as always, it is a pleasure to have you here. Where can people catch you next?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Always fun. Just TraeCrowder.com, TRAE Crowder.com has all my tour dates and ticket links, but also whatever your preferred social media platform is. If you just search for Trae Crowder on there, then you'll find me. Yeah, nice. Pretty simple.
And everyone, definitely go check out his YouTube channel. I was telling Trae before the show that I know you've been doing it for a while, but the algorithm finally started throwing them my way. Your videos that you do, topical videos, very in-depth topical videos, very casually in your car. I really enjoy it. It fits the same genre of, a few months ago, I started watching, is it Josh Johnson? I think. Yeah, it's like, and both you guys, it amazes me that you can do as much every week. Like, I don't get, like, it would take me months to put together one of those, and you guys just keep hitting this awesome topical stuff. So everybody go check out Trae on YouTube.
Well, you're too sweet. You're selling yourself short too, by the way. You kind of do it literally every day. You're just acting like you don't. But yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Everybody out there, remember, what day is it? Tuesday. Thursday is going to be our members hangout. So if you're a tier 3 member on YouTube, definitely come hang out with us. Tomorrow's Big News Wednesday, so come hang out with me and with Sharon. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.